Hey, what's up? What is the VC here? Coming at you with another video about anything and everything. Nothing's off the table. There's so much to talk about. And I think a good way to talk about something that is, everything's still relevant. But I think we should talk about something in particular that occurred a couple days ago. But before we do, let's talk about subscribing to the VC here, the Villain Club. Because it's great to be a villain. And here we are with the Rumble experience. If you like to follow me on Rumble or YouTube, doesn't matter, either or both, I'll take it. All right, so without further ado, now let's get into it. I think we should talk about the first 100 days of Trump into his second term. And I'm looking at all this stuff here, information out there. You have the liberal media side, right? Which is, the dominant liberal media, right? MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS. They're going to spin it one way, right? And they've been anti-Trump from the get-go, so it doesn't matter. They're just going to spin it as all bad, right? And Fox, to me, is a better news source in terms of coverage because they just show it like it is. But then some people say, oh, they lean too far to the right at conservative, whatever that means. So let's look at someone that I was thinking about, either Sky News or another one right here, Dr. Phil. All right, because Dr. Phil, I think he's a changed person, right? He's looked at, Trump a certain way before. He's looked at Trump a certain way now. And I think he plays it pretty fair in his assessment of Trump as a person, because he's one to speak his mind. And believe me, I'm not even a Dr. Phil fan, all right? I thought he was corny and cheesy back then when he had his show and all that, whatever health talk show that he had. I thought it was just cheesy, corny, kind of sensationalized. So, but then as time went on, he started to do stuff more on, podcasting, YouTube, all this stuff. I found him to be better, way better, more impartial about things. He just tells it like it is. So I was thinking of Sky News with this, but I found this one's a shorter, kind of an assessment, and that's what I wanted to see here. So let's take a look at what Dr. Phil has to say. I think he plays it pretty impartial.
This is how to get in shape fast.
If you want to drop this, start eating more of these.
Well, today is April 30th, and guess what? That marks 100 days. 100 days of the Trump administration. Depending on who you are and what your ideology is, those 100 days may feel like dog years.
Yeah.
There's been an awful lot going on. The mainstream media has been on a rampage.
Yep.
Painting a very one-sided picture.
Exactly.
MSNBC, here's one of their headlines: unadulterated disaster. Trump spends the first 100 days sabotaging what makes America great. Reuters, how Trump waged war on his perceived foes in the first 100 days. NPR, 5 takeaways from the week, nearing a constitutional crisis. So, what's the real story?
Yeah, what is the real story? Come on, tell me.
I'm
Tell me,
not
Dr. Phil.
saying it's the opposite of everything you just read, but somewhere in the middle. Since Franklin Roosevelt, we have never seen a president do so much in so little time. And how's
True.
America seeing it? Well, this is the first time in 20 years that a Republican has won the popular vote.
Yep.
And the Democrats are at their weakest in a generation. I mean,
See, this is what I mean. Like, Dr. Phil, I think he's kind of just changed over time as a person. He evolved, right? So he's just telling the facts right now. And it's just, just to kind of show you what is truly happening, what has happened. It's all facts right here. So, so far, I'm like what I'm hearing. So let's see which side he swings here, because I haven't actually listened to this thing yet, so we'll see.
numbers of 27% approval rating for them. So, I mean, come on. We're really seeing some changes, and the Democrats seem to be self-destructing, rudderless, lost. As of last week, Trump has signed 130 executive orders.
Damn.
I'm about to sign some very important executive orders.
Now, that means he's keeping his word on his campaign promises, despite roadblock after roadblock after roadblock.
You better take a look up the road there, fella, because we got us a roadblock.
Interference from activist judges, the media, and political opponents.
Yep.
And what do I mean by that? Well,
Well, you know what makes him resilient to that? Because he was constantly being brought on by prosecution, and you could tell it was extremely stacked against him. The Democrats were doing what they could to prevent him from running, for one thing, and two, to prevent him from winning. All right, and so if Trump can pull all that off, his resiliency would not even let him stop at anything to do what he wants to get accomplished. It proved that he could do anything. That's pretty powerful stuff.
he's getting more than a lawsuit a day. He's got 150 lawsuits against the Trump administration
People
since
are moronic.
January 20th in response to his executive orders, as well as executive proclamations and memos.
People are
Now, that's
stupid
according to
morons.
Fox News Digital, because they've been counting this stuff up as it's been going along. Now, was every decision the right one? Look, it's too early to tell. No one knows. I'll guarantee you there have been mistakes made. It's only been 100 days. We've got to let it play out for a while. But here's what I do know. Things are changing. Things are getting done. And you have to shake it up to break it up.
Show your daughter how much you love her with this beautiful
Because
gift.
status quo won't flow.
It
You know what I'm saying?
To my daughter,
The old
never
status
forget
quo,
that I love you
Biden status
forever.
flow.
I hope
It
that
was
you
just
believe in
bad.
yourself
It was
as
so
much as I
bad.
believe in.
Sometimes you can go in and nudge things along, but sometimes you really have to tear it down to really get anything
Bare
different.
bones foundation.
And you can't change what you don't acknowledge. You really can't. If you don't say, this is wrong, and admit that to yourself, you're never going to get it changed. And sometimes you make the right decision, and sometimes you just have to make the decision right. So let's focus on the facts. Let's focus on some of the key issues here and see how we're doing on some of the macro issues. And I can't go over all 140 or however many have been signed, and I haven't checked today, so I'm sure there have been more.
Shit.
Immigration. This is the
let's
lowest
look at the
level of
major points here.
migrant crossing in 25 years.
There you go.
Now, remember, I've said many times, I'm a big fan of immigration. We need it. We have to have it. We need to encourage it.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with immigration. All right? There's nothing wrong with having people come into the country. There's nothing wrong with doing it the right way. I mean, what's wrong with doing it the right way, right? If we are in any government where it's governed by laws, governed by just policies and things that should be run in a certain way, why would we, or anybody, which nobody really does except us, allow illegal immigration to happen? Just let people come in with, catch and release, or what else is there? There's catch and release. There's I don't know what, all these other methods, right? That they are undocumented. I mean, what other country in the world would allow that? None, right? But yet we just do it and just allow it, right? And then on top of that, to give them every resource of what we have when we're already struggling as it is in parts of the country, but you still want to give it all up to illegals? None of that made any sense. It never made any sense then. It doesn't make any sense now. And so there's nothing wrong with immigration done the right way. Just go through the process, go through with documentation and intention, and how you're going to eventually accomplish means of whether it's, legalized citizenship, whatever it is, right? And if you have completed your time and stay, you don't do the paperwork, right? Paperwork for extensions, things like that, right? Then you got to go back. And that's just the way it's always been. But to just let people in and do all this bullshit, it doesn't make any sense. So, nothing wrong with legal, but there's a reason why it's called illegal, right? So, I mean, common sense.
But there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. In December, the end of the Biden presidency, there were 47,000 apprehensions. In February of 2025, under Trump, there were 8,450 ICE arrests. And among those, there were hundreds of alleged members of the violent Tren de Aragua and MS-13 gangs. And these people were arrested and deported to El Salvador. Now, a lot of people object to that, but it does send a message. You don't want to come here.
Object to what?
If you are a gang member. You don't want to come here looking to institute a criminal enterprise. Because if you get caught, then you're going to get deported. You're going to get deported to a prison. They've arrested leaders of violent anti-Israeli protests on campus. Now, look, that's been very controversial, but I have to tell you something. You want to think about this critically. Have there been mistakes made there? I'm sure there have. But think about what we're talking about here. These are people that are on elite campuses in America that are politicking for, demonstrating for, activating for the demise of America and its allies. They are protesting for and demonstrating for and in support of terrorist groups that have killed Americans and are holding American hostages.
And also their allies hostages. And it doesn't make any sense that you are in a country that you're just a guest in, but yet you want to stomp on the very feet and foundation of this country that allowed you in because you claim to be a student, right? And in the end, you're just a guest. So for you to really just demonize and to tear down and to insult and to go and try to tear apart, create issues and troubles and death to America and all this other bullshit, fuck out of here, right? Like, go do that in your host country, right? So if you're from Palestine or you're from, whatever is Gaza, right? And you really want to, fight and, whatever it is that you want to claim that you're trying to be for, then go do it out there. Go do it on Israel, right? Go in Israel and do the same thing, and guess what they'll do? They'll probably shoot you, right? I mean, I hate to be mean, but maybe they're democratic, so maybe they won't shoot you, but they'll lock you up. They're not gonna allow that to happen, right? Like, think about that. You are creating a terroristic situation in America on campuses where, on college campuses, they are basically indoctrination camps, so easily influenced because it's just the environment, and you're chanting all this shit. Fuck out of here. So that's why that Khalil dude got arrested and should be deported, because in the end you're just a guest and you squashed your guest rights, right? If I came in your house and I just say, hey, you're shit, this is shit, and everything about all you guys is shit, what's going to happen? You're going to kick me out of your house, right? So Think about that. America is the house, and you're stomping on it and creating havoc and all this bullshit. Well, you know what? America's going to kick you out. Fuck out of here. I mean, it's simple, right? Just on a bigger scale. So, yeah, Khalil should be out. Fuck out of here. And so if you do all this shit, anybody, it doesn't matter who it is, anybody, all those supporters that you saw in the visuals there, like all these fools wearing masks and you know, all this shit, flag waving, doing all this shit here. There's no suicide, genocide, fight apartheid, right? All this shit. All right, you know what? Go ahead and do it in Israel. Go ahead and do it in Palestine, and knock yourself out, right? But you know, to create this madness in America, all right. Again, here's my message again: fuck out of here, all right? So just saying.
That are on elite campuses in America that are politicking for,
wearing your mask and all that,
activating for the demise of America and its allies. They are protesting for and demonstrating for and in support of terrorist groups that have killed Americans and are holding American hostages. Is that okay with you? Is that what you call free speech? Is that okay with you? And let's just do a fact check. Trump has deported 10% fewer immigrants than Biden. So according to NBC, about 11,000 immigrants were deported in February of 2025 versus 12,000 in February of 2024. So just taking that month to compare, 1,000 more were deported under Biden than were deported under Trump. But you don't hear the legacy media, the mainstream media, talking about that. Why? Because they're not reporting the news. They're running an agenda.
Exactly.
And if that doesn't offend you, it should. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat, that should offend you.
Yeah.
That you're turning
That's why I stopped watching the news a long time ago. Like years. Before Trump was president, I stopped watching the news because it was just the same bullshit every day. That I just stopped watching the news altogether. Mainstream media news. I used to love and be hooked on watching mainstream media news, and I just grew tired of it, and it did seem. I mean, it didn't really occur to me at the time, but I just didn't like how the feeling was of how things are being reported. And then years later that I've gotten older, I kind of just look at it now and like, oh yeah, you know what? It's extremely one-sided. And yes, I agree. It is more of an agenda and very, very leaning to the left, like far leaning to the left than it is being at least balanced,
into something that's labeled as news, and they're not giving you news. They're giving you propaganda. That offends me. It should offend you. DOGE, that's another big thing, right? Department of Government Efficiency, run by Elon Musk. Now, reportedly, they have eliminated billions of dollars in government contracts and by shrinking the federal workforce, according to the Cato Institute. Now, Americans want these cuts. They do. There was an April poll, 89% favor auditing all government spending to root out waste, fraud, and abuse. If you ask Americans, they would say they would just cut 40% across the board. Just across the board. Don't even look. Just take 40% across the board. But they're not doing that. They're going through and trying to do an assessment, an analysis.
Yeah, it's going through everything.
And they're making cuts with some direction. Even so, there have been relentless attacks on Tesla because Musk owns Tesla.
Yeah,
retaliation. There have been both physical
That's so bad.
attacks, vandalism, destruction. They're driving by Tesla dealerships and shooting through the windows. One of the drive-bys went through a window and went through a computer monitor. Could there have been somebody sitting behind a computer monitor? There was not, thank God, but there could have been. And it's had an economic impact. Tesla profits plummeted 71% at one point. Now, you should really be concerned about the hypocrisy of this, because these same people that are doing this are the same people that were saying the saving grace for our climate are electric vehicles.
Yeah.
The biggest manufacturer of electric vehicles is Tesla. Elon Musk. So he's the fair-haired boy until he starts making cuts through DOGE.
All of a sudden, right?
And that offends some people, so all of a sudden now, let's destroy him. Well,
it doesn't.
Good luck.
Oh. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, like, come on, like, really now? It's like, he was like the golden child, and electric this, and the Green New Deal, and this whole green agenda, right? And they made it very, very clear that he was going to be the dominant electric car manufacturer in the U.S., right? Because I guess he's the first big manufacturer. How about that? There's a lot of small ones, but he stood about even through early years of profit loss and all that, and still came through as the top dog. But yeah, so as soon as Elon started to kind of sniff out how the left is just really just Hippocratic, full of shit, and he started to see it. You could see it, that he started to see it, that he started to engage in conversation with Trump and started to realize, wow, you know what? Not everything that you see on the left is really the truth and reality. And so that's why he started to go to the right, because he started to see the bullshit, and enough was enough. And so, it's just funny how that is. That, it's just funny how, and then all of a sudden, just because he sides with Trump, because it's common sense, just everything that's been brought upon. Now, the Green New Deal goes out the window, or what? I mean, they just torch all the electric cars all of a sudden, that it no longer is a big deal, or what? It's funny how that is. And then, if they're supposedly the more peaceful in terms of protesting and all that stuff, man, they're so, when it comes to, and, it's funny is, so what does that speak for now about this electric car agenda? Like, because they're being torched, and yeah, there's other electric car manufacturers like Rivian and all that, but yet, and then of course, your typical car manufacturers that if they do produce electric cars, I mean, like, where do you go from there, right? So it's just kind of funny how that is, how the left can be so contradictory and really show that all they do care about is agenda, right? Just because, do they even care about electric cars anymore if they're torching Teslas and all that, right? And if they're so-called peaceful protesters, which it demonstrated that, again, I didn't get to finish my original statement, that they're violent, destructive, you name it, they are completely not what they say they are. Just like everything else they say in general, the left, Democrat, progressive, liberal people. It's funny how that is, right? They definitely whine the most, too.
With that, he's the richest man on planet Earth. The chance that you're going to make an impact on him financially is not very good. Particularly when you're not actually impacting him directly, you're out ruining the business and the automobiles of people that bought them because you supported them buying them. Now you're putting their name and address on the internet so they can be terrorized in the real world because they agreed with you about protecting the environment. Does that hurt him? No, it doesn't hurt him. They have to go buy parts from him now, so you're making him more money. Come on.
Didn't see it in that
Germans have figured
That's
out a way to increase water pressure by 15 times
Didn't see it in that
without
way.
using any energy.
Then how about the Department of Education? It has been largely dismantled. About half of its staff fired. Well, why?
It's garbage.
Good question. How is the Department of Education doing? Well, in 2024, almost a third of
What
fourth
are they
graders
doing?
and eighth graders can't read. They can't read. Even at the most fundamental level, they can't read the instructions on a prescription. If it comes with instructions that says take with food, they can't read it. If there are signs on the side of the road that says slippery, they can't read that. How do they get to the eighth grade? So the Department of Education is not doing their job. The nation's report card, academic recovery from COVID, has cost $31 trillion in potential cost to the future GDP from COVID learning loss. That's from the...
Yeah, the COVID learning loss, yeah, which is basically not being in the classroom during the time of COVID. They kept everybody home. They did it, classrooms via Zoom, and this is from get grades K through 12. When you look at that, it's like K through 12. This is the most, I guess, brain developed learning period of your life. Your basic education, and you kept them all at home during COVID. And so that's crazy, right? And then at the same time, what was the result of all that? Well, a lot of people fell behind. It was bad. It was real bad. That was a terrible decision.
Hoover Institute at Stanford University. So they polled the teachers. Only 20% say students are progressing well academically.
Yeah.
70% of the students say all or most of their peers are bored in class. So they're not doing a great job. And the Department of Education admits failure. There was a quote in January on the 29th this year. Quote, despite the billions of dollars that the federal government invests in K through 12 education annually and the approximate $190 billion in federal pandemic funds, our education system continues to fail students across the nation. Speaking of money, in fiscal 2024, the DOE grant spending totaled $150.3 billion. We're spending a lot of money with an agency that is not working.
Exactly.
It just is not working. So how's our economy? Well, we're going to call it as it is. The Fox poll says 82% of Americans are extremely or very concerned about inflation, as well they should be. It's interesting how Fox can be critical of Trump, but the mainstream legacy media never says anything good. At least Fox says good and bad. The tariffs on Chinese imports, they're escalating a series of tariffs that have reached 145%.
Yeah.
That sent the stock market on a roller coaster. Is it good or is it bad?
I think it's still too early to tell.
I don't know yet. I can't say.
Yeah,
maybe that's not.
Still too early to tell. I mean, think about it. It's only been with this whole tariff stuff, maybe 30 days? Maybe, right? 45 days? Maybe. And you can't see, this is the thing about people. People want instant gratification, and you can't have instant gratification on everything in life. Sometimes things take time to develop or unravel or unwind or, just to work out, and you can't just have things happen with the snap of a finger, like Thanos' finger snap, right? I mean, you can't expect that. And so, this is a turning wheel that it's really going to take some time to just kind of see, because you're looking at a big situation here when it comes to money and moving money. So to me, I think I agree with him. Everything so far, I've agreed with Dr. Phil on everything that he has said so far, and he's playing it right down the middle.
Not a smart thing to do. We will have to see. If it's wrong, they need to change it. They need to back off. Trump said it wouldn't be easy. Look, it's unnerving. But it's not Armageddon. The Dow is still up almost 5% over a year ago and 67% over the past 5 years. But maybe it's not right. Maybe it's costing the average American too much money. Maybe it's going to put some small businesses out of business if they can't afford the increased dollars that they have to pay to get the goods they need to run their businesses. That needs to be taken into consideration. He's doing what few presidents would dare do. America asked for change. And he's creating change. And I'm going to watch and I'm going to see whether it all works or whether it doesn't work. He has said some things that I think need to be reconsidered. When he was talking to the president of El Salvador, he said, well, it's great that you're taking these illegal aliens that have come here to create crime and advance the agenda of their gangs. And he said, homegrown's next. Wait a minute, what? You're talking about sending Americans to an El Salvadorian prison? Surely not.
No, it's not going to happen. But
if that's right, I got a problem. That hasn't happened yet, but if it's in the thinking, I would have a big problem with that. That's why I say
it's too much legal processes for that to happen. It just can't happen. It won't happen. It'll just be too much legal tape in the way for that. I mean, I think the thought of it is nice. I think he was just saying it as an offhanded comment. I could be wrong, but I just don't think it's going to happen though. And more of a funny statement, you know.
Going to watch real closely. I'm also watching what's happening on universities. He has said, okay, listen, you've got federal money, grants coming to these universities. You need to comply with the law or we're going to suspend those grants. Everybody's up in arms about that. Look, follow the law or I don't want my tax dollars going there. If you are fostering intellectual rot, if you are having students that are being indoctrinated instead of educated, I don't want my tax.
That's college everywhere, indoctrination camps everywhere. So that's the only bad thing about college.
Dollars going there, not a dime, not a penny going there if you're indoctrinating and not following the law. If you haven't eliminated DEI, if you are practicing racist policies at these universities, then I don't want my money going there. We have had a generation of left-leaning students that have now become left-leaning professors
couldn't agree more.
that are creating a whole generation of American.
I experienced that personally myself. And when I was in college, it was a very left-leaning university. Everything was left-leaning, and I kind of fell for it. You know, I was a believer in liberal, progressive thought and ideology and media, right? When I used to listen to the radio and all that, AM radio, and I really favored liberal media, and progressive media and all that, right? But as I gotten older, got my career, paying bills, doing all this shit. It was like, oh shit, man, this liberal progressive stuff doesn't work. Right? You start to see how it's really not that great. And it's really more taxing on people as you have grown in career, money, and all that stuff. And really, it's just more of an ideology and really just bad in terms of governing and policy and all that. And you learn that as you grow, mature.
Hating radicalized students. That's not okay with me. We need to enforce civil rights. And if they're suspending these federal grants to Harvard and Princeton and Columbia, that's okay with me. We need to have these people comply or not give them federal money. If they want to give up the federal money, then we'll fight this on another level. But I don't want my tax dollars paying them, and I don't think you should either.
I agree.
If your neck looks like this, you need to watch this video. When you sit at your desk or use your phone, your head protrudes.
It's been a busy 100 days. Like I say, sometimes you make the right decision, sometimes you make the decision right, and he needs to be willing to admit if a mistake has been made and fix it right now. If a mistake has been made, if the wrong people have been impacted, he needs to say that.
why has he been backing off and on tariffs? Because he's adjusting. I think knowingly that he's affected the economy, so he's been doing that.
That was a mistake. I'm changing it. I'll fix it. We'll do this another way, or we won't do it at all. He has answered more questions, nearly 100 questions from the press during his first 3 cabinet meetings this year. That's 20 times the number of questions President Biden answered during 4 years in office, according to the Washington Times. So, a 100-day marker. A lot of things have changed. Let's be open-minded and see how they work out.
Yeah. It's still
I
early.
promise I'll tell you the truth. I'm not sure if these things will work out. Some of them already are. Some of them, jury's out on. We'll see. But I will tell you the real story. Wherever you're getting
Good stuff. Yeah. That's why I wanted to play Dr. Phil. I thought he seems to be more fair and impartial than the cheesy sort of shit they used to do years ago. And you could tell it was more kind of leftist stuff before, and you could tell he doesn't lean even far to the right at all. And when you listen to what Dr. Phil has talked about over the years, recent years, he's become more fair across the board and impartial. So that's why I wanted to play this one and really get a good assessment of Trump's first 100 days. And so far, I mean, progress is progress. And it's still, to me, it's still too early, right? Maybe after year 1, you could figure out, okay, year 1, this is what happened. And then you could say, okay, right? But right now, 100 days, 3 months, you can't change the world in 100 days, let alone, America. In that sense. And remember, you can't have instant gratification for everything. So with that, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I think, my opinion so far, I think he's doing just fine. And think about it this way. If we were in a Biden America or a Kamala America, how bad things would be right now. You think it'd be better? Nah, not at all. It'd be terrible. Terrible. Especially a Kamala America. Oh, terrible. Oh, man. I mean, everything that Trump's unwinding right now from Biden, none of this would be happening. Zero, none of this. You think immigration would stop? No. The Green New Deal would stop? No. Transgenders infiltrating women's sports? Nope. Right? None of this stuff would be stopped like it's been right now. Department of Education disbanded? Nope. Right? All these organizations being disbanded under Doge? Stopped? Nope. Right? Everything would be status quo, but worse. Right? And they'll still be bilking money everywhere on us. Right? And this is the part I can't wait to see. Just be impatient, right? Let this thing play out. Is how's it going to give us the return on investment later on down the road with all this dismantling of all these departments and organizations and defunding of all these different things, right? Entities and all that. Like, what's the return going to be towards us, the citizens, right? That's what we're going to be waiting for. And I believe the end result is it's going to be some favorable stuff to us, right? But we just got to be patient. That's all it is. All right, so with that, this is the Villain Club. Share me your thoughts, your opinion. Let me know what you think. Subscribe, whether you're on YouTube or follow me on Rumble. And what do you think about Trump's 100 days so far? I think he's done a lot. Think about that in the first 100 days. And while Biden's been asleep this whole time after he stepped out. But yeah, so it was just a clown show with Biden. But anyhow, it could be worse. Could have been worse with Kamala. All right. Other than that, thanks. I'll see you next one.